In this episode of True Crime Black, we look at the disappearance of a young black man. This young man inexplicably disappeared when one of his coworkers turned his back for a short period of time. The police believe he ran away. His mother believes that something horrible happened to him. The internet believes that he may have been abducted by aliens. But which theory is true? What happened to Christopher Thompkins? Christopher Thompkins was someone who could find himself enjoying various activities, but his primary focus revolved around his unwavering devotion to Christianity. He also found it very important to strengthen his commitment to being a dutiful son to his mother, Anne. At the age of 20 years old, Chris secured a job at a local surveyor's company situated in Columbus, Georgia. He relished his work, and his circumstances seemed promising. Chris's mother had the delightful responsibility of babysitting for Chris's boss, who also happened to be the owner of the company. She was pleased that Chris had found a satisfying job and was very hopeful for his future. On what seemed like a typical day, January 25, 2002, Chris woke up as usual and prepared to go to work. Upon arrival at the office, he parked his car and joined a colleague in their vehicle, intending to travel together to the job site. On that particular day, their destination was Ellerslie, Georgia, a small unincorporated town situated in Harris County. After their lunch break, the four men resumed their work. They were positioned in a line, with approximately 50 feet separating each individual. Chris engaged in conversation with one of his coworkers until that coworker stopped to attend to a task. Upon turning back around, Chris was nowhere to be found. Initially assuming that Chris had likely ventured into the nearby trees to relieve himself, his coworker stayed there and waited for him to come back. When several minutes passed with no sign of Chris, the remaining crew members began to search for him. That search would yield no results still to this day. Born on December 28, 1981, Christopher Carlton Thompkins was raised in Columbus, Georgia by his devoted mother, Anne Mackenzie. Columbus, Georgia, positioned along the banks of the Chattahoochee River and bordering the state of Alabama, served as the backdrop for Chris's upbringing. On the morning of January 25, 2002, Chris followed his usual routine. First, he arrived at work at around 8 a.m. He joined his coworkers in their vehicle and together they carpooled to their designated work site for the day. That work site was located in Ellerslie, Georgia. Situated about a 25-minute drive northeast of Columbus, Ellerslie had what some would describe as a more rural setting, although it still encompassed a scattering of businesses and residences. Following their lunch break at around 1 p.m., the crew promptly resumed work by 1:30 p.m. Their tasks were organized in a line formation, with each member positioned approximately 50 feet apart. According to his coworkers, Chris engaged in friendly conversation with his nearest coworker for a while. However, the coworker had to pause momentarily to attend to a specific project. Upon resuming his focus, the coworker realized that Chris was no longer present. Initially, the coworker thought that Chris had temporarily stepped away so that he could answer a call or use the bathroom. The coworker assumed that he would be back soon and waited for him. But as the minutes elapsed without Chris's return, concern began to grow amongst the crew. They noticed Chris's tools were abandoned on the ground near his work area but found no other trace of his presence. Calling out for Chris yielded only an eerie silence. Christopher Thompkins had inexplicably vanished. The crew dedicated a couple of hours to combing the area in search of Chris, diligently calling out his name to no avail. Their efforts proved fruitless, as they discovered no trace of his belongings. Apart from the tools he had left behind, there were no indications of Chris's whereabouts. Almost immediately following Chris's disappearance, one of his colleagues made a phone call to his wife, notifying her of the distressing situation. Allegedly, he contacted his wife specifically to inform her about Chris's disappearance. Interestingly, it took several hours before anyone thought to contact Chris's mother. Finally, at 4:15 p.m., the news reached Anne's ears. delivering the heart-wrenching information that her son was missing. Upon receiving the distressing news, Anne wasted no time and swiftly gathered some family members to make their way to the location where the crew had been working. The area in question was situated off County Line Road in Ellerslie. Despite their attempts to alert the authorities about Chris's disappearance, they were informed that a waiting period of 24 hours was required since Chris was an adult. Undeterred by this protocol, Chris's mother and her family resolved to conduct their own search in the area. Their determination soon led them to a startling discovery. They stumbled upon one of Chris's work boots hanging from the edge of a barbed wire fence, close to the vicinity where the crew had been working. Additionally, they noticed some loose change scattered on the ground and a torn piece of blue fabric, which his mother suspected could have originated from Chris's pants or the flannel shirt he had worn that morning. What's strange is that Chris's coworkers searched that area and claimed to have never seen any of these items. The reason for that is still unknown. Finally, on January 26, the following day, the police arrived at the scene to initiate their search efforts. In an effort to unravel the mystery surrounding Chris's disappearance, specialized search dogs and bloodhounds were brought in to aid in the search. But despite their keen senses, the dogs failed to pick up any scent or trail to follow. Law enforcement authorities, drawing their own conclusions, became convinced that Chris had voluntarily left of his own accord. Being a 20-year-old individual, they speculated that he might have sought an adventurous experience or pursued a different path in life. His mother adamantly rejected this notion. She firmly believed that Chris, a very happy and well-adjusted individual who cherished his job and maintained a close bond with his mother, would not willingly abandon his family, particularly his mother. This was further emphasized by Chris's devout Christian faith, raising doubts about the possibility of him leaving without a compelling reason. Despite his mother's skepticism, the authorities remained steadfast in their belief that Chris had chosen to depart voluntarily. The absence of signs of struggle and the lack of additional evidence pointed them towards this conclusion. In her search for answers, Anne contemplated whether the crew members possessed information that they were not disclosing. The specific area where the crew was working, at the intersection of County Line Road and Warm Springs Road, is relatively rural. Nevertheless, homes are scattered throughout the vicinity. While it is possible that an incident occurred without witnesses, considering the extensive search efforts conducted, primarily by the family, it becomes very hard to imagine that Chris could still remain undiscovered in that area after such a significant passage of time. The surrounding area contains several small lakes or bodies of water. While Ellerslie itself is limited in terms of establishments, consisting mainly of small businesses and houses, it does feature Ellerslie Park. However, it is essential to determine whether the park existed in 2002 or if something else occupied that space at the time. Given Ellerslie's small size and the absence of public transportation, it would be necessary to utilize a car or other means of transportation to leave the town. It is a tightly knit community with limited options for public transit. If Chris indeed walked away from the job site in Ellerslie, the question arises, where did he go and how did he reach his destination? 6 months later, a significant development unfolded less than a mile from the site where Chris went missing. While traversing his property, a farmer stumbled upon an unexpected discovery that caught his attention. Realizing the significance of what he had found, he promptly alerted the authorities. It was soon confirmed that the item in question was Chris Thompkins's other missing boot. Curiously, the boot was located in a damp, marshy area, and no further trace of Chris was uncovered. This finding forced law enforcement to reevaluate the case. Then, there would be another crucial discovery. In 2009, a hunter made a startling discovery of skeletal remains in Harris County. The authorities took the necessary steps to analyze and identify the remains, raising hopes and speculation among many as to whether they belonged to Chris Thompkins. When the results of the analysis were received, it was conclusively determined that the remains did not belong to Chris. It is worth noting that Harris County has a significant number of missing person cases. In fact, there is a dedicated Facebook page specifically created for assisting with missing persons in that region. Based on records up until late 2022, there were 114 active missing person cases reported in the greater Columbus, Georgia area. Law enforcement authorities state that they receive an average of 5 missing person reports per day, with a majority of them involving runaway teenagers. Due to Ellerslie's unincorporated nature, the town doesn't have a well-known crime profile. If a town is unincorporated, it means that it does not have a local government. These communities typically do not have elected officials at the town level. But when you look at the neighboring city of Columbus, you see notably higher crime rates. According to statistics, Columbus has a safety rating of 8, indicating that it is safer than only 8% of other cities. As a result, theories regarding Chris's disappearance can vary widely, depending on the source. One theory suggests that Chris voluntarily walked away to start a new life. Initially, authorities may have leaned towards this explanation, although their perspective may have evolved over the years. But this theory raises numerous unanswered questions. If Chris did leave, where did he go? Considering he was on foot, did someone give him a ride? What could have compelled him to leave? Moreover, given the passage of time, wouldn't he have reappeared by now, especially to reassure his family, particularly his mother, that he was safe? These lingering uncertainties make it challenging to fully embrace the theory of Chris voluntarily leaving without a trace. There is a considerable number of individuals who have entertained the theory of Chris's coworkers being involved in his disappearance, citing certain behaviors that have raised suspicion. One coworker allegedly informed their spouse about Chris's disappearance. This was several hours before notifying his mother. While this action may not inherently indicate foul play, it has left some questioning the coworker's motivations. It is plausible that they simply wanted to avoid unnecessarily alarming Chris's mother, but the timing of the notification raises eyebrows. Most of the coworkers initially cooperated with the investigation, but one of them promptly hired an attorney and ceased cooperating. This decision to seek legal counsel immediately after Chris's disappearance raises questions about their intentions. Were they just being cautious? Or did they have reason to be concerned? While it is not uncommon for individuals to seek legal representation to navigate the legal system, the immediate hiring of an attorney in this case made some people suspicious. Additionally, one of the coworkers subsequently went to prison for an unrelated violent crime. Upon hearing that, one can't help but think about their capacity for violence and whether there is a pattern of such behavior. It is important to note that law enforcement did not uncover any specific evidence pointing towards foul play involving the coworkers or any other individuals associated with the case. One theory that has gained attention on social media is the concept of a missing 411 case. These cases explore mysterious disappearances under strange circumstances in rural areas of North America. Some individuals believe that these incidents involve elements beyond our understanding, such as extraterrestrial encounters, Bigfoot encounters, or even portals to other dimensions. While these theories may not align with conventional beliefs, they offer alternative explanations for how people vanish without leaving any trace behind. It is important to note that there is no concrete evidence linking Chris's disappearance to these paranormal theories. Regarding the specific circumstances of Chris Thompkins's case, it is perplexing that he left his boots in 2 separate locations. This detail raises questions about the events surrounding his disappearance. Unfortunately, without additional information or evidence, it remains challenging to determine a definitive theory. Law enforcement agencies, Chris's family, and the community continue to seek answers in hopes of finding closure. To this day, the truth behind Chris Thompkins's disappearance remains unknown.